2K has been busy and they've sent me a whole bunch of games, 10 of them as a matter of fact. They're all ports of classic games that are from their library, that are all very good games, and they've decided to bring them back, whether they're for new platforms like Nintendo Switch or they are remastered versions of classic titles. And I thought the best way to approach this, because these are all games that I've talked about before, we've reviewed before on this show and this channel, why don't I put them together into a quick fire review feature for you? And I'm calling this one the 2K Port Party. And the first one that I'm going to start with is The Outer Worlds, which is actually published by Private Division, which is owned by 2K. So it's not 2K proper, but you know, it's all in the family. This is a fantastic 2019 game. So this is the most recent of all of these ports that I'm going to be talking about today. And it was one of the best games of 2019 for PlayStation 4 or Xbox or PC last year.
You've tried the best now. Now try the rest.
And here it is finally on the Nintendo Switch, and I know that Obsidian, the developers, and Private Division were very excited to bring this to this platform. This is a terrific action role-playing experience, very open-ended and open world where you can approach every situation differently. There's lots of replayability in this. There's a fantastic sense of humor, great script writing, terrific voice acting, lots of interesting environments and locations to visit, lots of enemies to take out, lots of allies to make, but this game is kind of butt ugly on the Nintendo Switch, unfortunately. The machine is capable of some pretty phenomenal things. I'm going to be talking about some great Switch ports here in a second, and we've seen open world role-playing experiences like The Witcher 3 or Elder Scrolls V Skyrim handled quite well on Nintendo Switch, so I don't exactly know what has gone on here with this Switch port, but it is very hard to look at, especially if you're familiar with this game in any way. This is a game about all the details, whether it's the cool signage that you're going to see as you enter into towns, or the enemies that you're going to see come charging at you from long distances away, the cool backdrops of these different planets that you get to visit. It's embedded all around you. When you walk into a room and you see all of the stuff that you can pick up and interact with, all of that stuff is here, but it's so poorly textured and so unclearly defined that it's very underwhelming. And it's really unfortunate because this is a great platform for this game to exist on. The idea that you can get lost in this lengthy but achievable experience. It's not so long that it sort of labors under its ambitions, which is something I think that you could levy at a franchise like Fallout. This was a game defined and crafted with a finite amount of resources, fairly quickly, and it was done so well. And it's such a great game that it really stood out in 2019, and it's such a heartbreaker that it's not better and it doesn't run better on Nintendo Switch. The game is still here. You're still going to have those encounters. You're still going to get into those fights. You're still going to visit these different, planets and locations, and you're still going to have a smile on your face when you're doing all that. It's just not the same experience as it is because the visuals are so stymied on Nintendo Switch. So it's a real, there's no other word for it, it's a heartbreak. I know that a patch will come and make this look better because there are lots of examples that we can point at where the ports were much better. But for now, I have to give the Outer Worlds port on Nintendo Switch a 7 out of 10. Now, 2K also sent me a code for the Mafia trilogy for Xbox One, which is the platform that I looked at it on. It was on Xbox One X, except for Mafia 1, the definitive edition of that, which I haven't played in years. I remember reviewing that with Tommy way back in the day. That comes out in August, so I will make a new video for you about Mafia 1. I can't wait to play that game. I loved it when I first did. I did get Mafia 2 Definitive Edition and Mafia 3 Definitive Edition, and they both ran quite well on Xbox One X. I was very happy to dive back into the world of Mafia 2, which takes place in the 1950s. It's very slick and very glossy. Obviously dealing with old art assets that have been all refined and brought up to a 4K resolution, runs at 1800p. So things did look quite slick on the Xbox One X. I understand that there are tons of glitches and problems with this definitive edition, especially on PlayStation platforms, I didn't really run into any big game-breaking or super annoying things as I was playing it on the Xbox One X. The only thing that I would say about Mafia 2 Definitive Edition is that it takes a while to get things going. That's kind of something that you can levy at all of the Mafia games, which should really adhere to authenticity and taking you back into a time period. And, we're, in Mafia 2, we're driving around in these very slow cars, and the city's big and sprawling, and it takes forever to get there, but it's beautiful. Lots of great neon embellishments, and snow will be falling, and you've got the old cool classic music on the radio. And of course, the Mafia games are famous for their incredible cut sequences, and all of those have been tuned and dialed up, and they look great, especially on Xbox One X. I'm not going to be able to speak about the other machines. I only looked at it on this system. But I was really impressed, and because it's such a slow-paced experience, it was kind of relaxing to play the game. Of course, violence erupts, and you're, in this nefarious underworld, and people are terrible and racist and awful, and so some stuff is just like, hard to hear and hard to see, and you do awful things. You're killing a lot of cops in here. You're killing other, people that belong to other organizations and other gangs and stuff. So there's a lot of carnage, but there are also long-ass moments where you're just driving across the town. And you know what? I loved the attention to detail and the lean in to kind of craft this authentic kind of experience that echoes a lot of the film work that we've seen around the Mafia world, which is always captivating. And I think that this game is as well, but you have to know going in that it isn't Grand Theft Auto and it isn't a Red Dead Redemption, which is littered with lots of objectives and variety. There's a kind of a repetitive kind of tone to a lot of the missions and things that you go on in Mafia 2 Definitive Edition. But still, it was a very welcome revisit to this game, which I think is absolutely worth this treatment. And, I know patches are coming and improvements are coming, so you may want to wait for that, particularly if you aren't going to be picking this up for Xbox One X. And apparently, if you've got the Steam edition of this game, everything is upgraded for free, which is pretty cool. Comes with all the DLC and everything. I really enjoyed jumping in on the Xbox One X and playing this game again. I'm going to give Mafia 2 Definitive Edition an 8.5 out of 10 with an asterisk that's about maybe you should wait for patches before you jump on board. Now, Mafia 3 Definitive Edition takes place a little bit later in the Mafia timeline. We're in the late 60s, early 70s. You play as Lincoln Clay, who is a Vietnam vet who comes back to this Louisiana town and, right away gets embroiled into a life of crime and just meets all kinds of despicable people. Racism is at the core because you're playing a black protagonist, which we don't get enough of in the video game space. And he has to face this awful kind of mindset right out of the get-go. So you're going to be just inundated with all kinds of grotesque language and lots of hate, and you also do a lot of really nefarious things. There's a lot of cop killing in this game as well. Of course, it's you're a criminal, and you're pulling off heists, and you're allying yourself with members of the mob. And then there are some things where you really kind of question your allegiances, and there's a lot of revenge that plays out in this game. It's unbelievably violent, and Lincoln Clay is a pretty extraordinary character to play as and to get to know. I like one of the narrative devices that they have in this game, which are employed throughout the cut sequences, where we have kind of this documentary feel to all of these supporting characters jumping in and retelling events and reminiscing about things that they experience. And then you get to play through sections of what these characters are remembering. It's pretty damn cool. And I like that we get to see this incredibly powerful and resourceful and quick thinking character in Lincoln Clay, but I also enjoyed that we see the vulnerability and the fact that so much of his story is because of outside events sort of impacting him and twisting and turning him into all kinds of directions that he might not otherwise have gone in, because he's kind of a virtuous fellow. And, there's a lot of gray area that we explore and examine and discover in this game. And I I enjoyed the risk taking and the ambition to kind of make this feel authentic. It's very adult. It's very mature. You actually collect Playboy covers and pop art kind of posters and things like that in this game that really kind of tie it to this time frame. I liked all of that stuff. Again, though, this is a game with long stretches of driving from one mission to another mission. There is also a repetition. There is this feeling when you're playing the game that you always end up on these missions where you're sneaking into an area, you're stealthy for a minute, and then you get discovered, and then it's all hell breaks loose, and you're just blasting your way out of everything, and people are dying in every direction, and there's a lot of that. Obviously the cars are different, a lot of muscle cars and a lot of convertibles and stuff, and the music is amazing in this game. It's definitely worth checking out. I will say, though, that the Definitive Edition Mafia 3 on Xbox One X didn't look as shiny as the Mafia 2 Definitive Edition. I don't know what's happened there. I don't know if it's a patch that has to come for this game. There's a lot more detail and a lot more, I think, realism in the vehicles and the clothing and the environmental stuff, but it just looked... I don't know, kind of grainy and like a lower resolution. It just didn't pop with the same kind of shine that Mafia 2 did. Presumably, this is a re-release that will just continue to be improved by patches. But it's still something to explore, whether you pick up the classic game in a used game store or you dig back into your archive and check this out again, or if you pick it up brand new. Again, you may want to wait for a patch to come for this title so that it's running exactly the way that you want to, particularly if you're not playing it on the Xbox. But still, definitely worth your time, but also you got to remember that this is a game that, even though it's from the same company that gives us Grand Theft Auto and Red Dead Redemption, it's not in that league, it's not that caliber. Still, really damn solid stuff. I'm going to give Mafia 3 Definitive Edition an 8 out of 10. On the Nintendo Switch, I was able to play the XCOM2 collection. This is a game I've been wanting to play on this platform for a long time. Probably when Nintendo first revealed the Nintendo Switch, one of the first games that popped into my mind that would be great on this machine is XCOM2. It's a turn-based strategy title where a lot of the action takes place from overhead over your characters. You move them one at a time into position, you give them actions that they have to perform, and you're taking out this alien threat. It takes place 20 years after the events of XCOM Enemy Unknown, which Firaxis really took the XCOM kind of game styles and brought it all into the modern era using 3D tech. And this was even a broader refinement on XCOM Enemy Unknown. We've got procedurally generated levels and missions, so you're not playing through the same things over and over again. And this is also one of those types of experiences where you will replay it a lot. You will also restart it a lot because your characters that you work so hard to preserve and protect and customize and promote, they die. And it really sucks when they die. If you choose to continue after your characters have died rather than restarting from before they died, you will actually be able to go into the bar inside of this flying headquarters that you get to customize. You'll go into the bar of that and you'll see posters of all of the fallen with little messages about their service, which is really cool. It's a good fit on Nintendo Switch, and I think the port has been solidly done, but this is a robust game with a lot of minutia, a lot of details. There is a tremendous amount of fog of war in this port because I presume it's just difficult to illustrate all aspects of these levels. It's also a little bit choppy in places, so you're going to see some frame rate hits. Cut sequences are great, though, and the metagame of outfitting your Avenger and customizing your rooms and researching all of that stuff plays extraordinarily well. It's a little squinty when you're playing it in portable mode because the text is small, all the details are sort of squished in, the pixels are all sort of crammed in. It still sings, it still pops off the screen, it's very tight, but this is a game where you are definitely, if you know this game, you are definitely acutely aware that there are better ways to play it. Still, it's tremendous that you have a game that will give you dozens and dozens and dozens of hours of enjoyment that you can take anywhere with you. It's really damn cool. And the War of the Chosen DLC is included in the collection. I wish that Enemy Unknown was also on here. This would make it irrefutable. The one thing to take into consideration when you go towards this turn-based strategy experience for Nintendo Switch is that it's not going to play as inherently perfectly suited for this platform as Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle or Fire Emblem Three Houses, even Wargroove. I love all those games, by the way. But this is a masterclass in turn-based strategy, and it's honestly, out of the 10 games that I've taken a look at for this feature, it's probably the one that I was getting the most addicted to. It was incredibly difficult for me to stop playing and move on to the next game so I could put this feature together. I'm going to give the XCOM2 collection for Nintendo Switch an 8.5 out of 10. 2K also sent me a code for the Borderlands Legendary Collection. This includes Borderlands Game of the Year, Borderlands 2, and Borderlands the pre-sequel. So 3 games that we have seen on multiple platforms in the past. They run very well on Nintendo Switch because these are games that have been around for a long time. The first Borderlands game actually came out in 2009. And so everything is very slick and very smooth. It's a looter shooter. And it was one of the games that really helped to define this as a genre that has become incredibly popular over time. It's a cooperative experience as well. There's split-screen multiplayer, and the characters and stuff and the customizable elements in these games, all 3 of these games, is just phenomenal. All of the loops are incredibly addictive, and the comic book art style has really stood the test of time. You know, it was very smart for Gearbox to set up this universe with the look that it has, because it doesn't age. And honestly, that's quite frankly one of the major problems that I think Borderlands 3 has, is that even though it's kind of the next-gen game, it's the most current iteration of this franchise, it doesn't look all that different from what you remember from the previous Borderlands experiences. So it doesn't look like it's taken some massive visual leaps forwards. It has definitely taken some leaps forward, but what I'm saying is Borderlands 1, 2, and pre-sequel still look fantastic. Borderlands is a real treat to go back into, Borderlands Game of the Year, the first one, because it's kind of the origin story, in a way, of what Gearbox is kind of capable of. You know, that collection of artists and programmers and developers there really went out on a limb to craft something that was a bridge between Halo and Diablo, and they made something incredibly cool and addictive and a surprising massive success that really kickstarted this awesome franchise, you know, which is stretched out into a Telltale game and comic books and toys, and you know, there's always rumors of a movie. But Borderlands 1 is where we get introduced to all of the ancillary characters, all of the mechanics of walking up to vending machines and buying ammo and health packs and shields, and we meet Claptrap for the first time. Great sense of humor, very, very fun. It does feel a little thin in comparison to the superior Borderlands 2, but still, it's a great experience to go back to Borderlands Game of the Year and to see the groundwork being laid, you know, and to see the roots of where this franchise came from. I'm going to give Borderlands Game of the Year on Nintendo Switch 8.5 out of 10. And Borderlands 2 is definitely a better game. Everything's a lot more refined, all the systems, all the mechanics, the story is embellished, there are more characters. There's a real confidence that is easy to see in its design. It's loaded with incredible DLC that has just kept coming. You know, it also brings a lot of cooperative kind of enjoyment as well, whether you play online or you can play in split screen. It's a tremendous game, and it's totally stood the test of time. I think arguably it's the most important Borderlands release that we've seen so far, and it's come out before in portable form on the Vita, but that ran terribly. The last time I played Borderlands 2 was on PlayStation VR. It is a perfect fit on Nintendo Switch. It runs at 30 frames per second, not 60 frames per second, but it's still super smooth and loaded with big moments and big characters. You're going to fall in love with it. And you're going to want to replay it. You're going to want to try out all of the different characters. It's an extraordinary game and an excellent pickup for Nintendo Switch. 9 out of 10. Now, Borderlands 2 came out in 2012. In 2014, Borderlands, the pre-sequel, came out for the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, but it was also ported up to PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. So it's the most current of the Borderlands games that is included on this collection. It's also the one that I think people don't often point to, but I have a real soft spot for it. You know, it was definitely quirky. It was developed at 2K Australia with Gearbox helping out. There's Australian voice actors in there, lots of new characters are introduced, but also cool mechanics. It takes place on a moon of Pandora, which is the main planet that the Borderlands games take place on. And this moon has less gravity, so your jumps are bigger, and you can actually pick up the ability to hover and sort of jetpack your way around stuff. You also run out of oxygen, so you constantly have to refill your oxygen tanks at all of these different little icons dotted across the moon. And you know, it still has that sense of humor, it still has crazy wacky bosses that you're gonna fight, and because it's a pre-sequel, it threads and loops in with all kinds of characters and memories of the subsequent games in the franchise, which is pretty damn cool. It's also a true origin story of Handsome Jack, who is an incredibly memorable antagonist in Borderlands 2, and you know what? It's just a really, really fun revisit. It does feel a little bit like 2K and Gearbox were like, oh my god, everybody loves this, let's get another game out there. But it works, and it's a great addition to this legendary collection, and it's a great fit on Nintendo Switch again. I'm giving Borderlands, the pre-sequel on Nintendo Switch, 8.5 out of 10. Now finally, for my 2K Port Party Quickfire feature, I'm looking at the BioShock collection on Nintendo Switch. And the original BioShock, which came out in 2007, man, it's been a long time, is still a masterpiece in 2020, I'm happy to say. I'm also happy to say that because the developers were working with a finite amount of resources back then, Irrational Games, headed up by Ken Levine, they didn't have an endless budget. They weren't able to just keep throwing money at this thing to make it as epic as the dream was for this title. And so they were very smart at containing everything. You're in this underwater city called Rapture, and you can look out of the you know, through the glass walls of Rapture, but you can't see forever because obviously the water kind of impacts your line of sight. So that meant that the artist didn't have to draw forever and ever. And so there's a containment in the kind of scope and the scale of the game, but that left the developers to just go over every single detail and make it perfect and make it precise. This was a game that really crafted the idea of picking up audio logs and hearing about the mythology, about the events that transpired before you got there, you know, and you see the ruins of this great utopian vision that Andrew Ryan had. Everything is crumbling, and there are leaks, and there are broken things, and you don't know who to trust. You meet up with these psycho splicers that creep out of the dark corners of rooms that you'll race through. You'll pick up a bottle of plasmids, and suddenly you'll have these crazy superpowers.
Steady now. Your genetic code is being rewritten. Just hold on and everything will be fine.
There was so much style, so many cool bits in here, lots of beautiful music, and you know, totally freaky characters. You know, just the idea that you're saving the little sisters and you see these big lumbering big daddies running around and they're incredibly hyper violent. You do some awful things and you question the awful things that you do. This was just a phenomenal game when it came out, and I'm happy to say that the Switch handles it all beautifully. This is a remaster that I think works on every level. It works as a port of a seminal game that everybody should play, so if you've never played it, there you go. It works as a fit for Nintendo Switch because it's not creaking under any hardware limitations at all, and it works as something with historical significance. So if you want to revisit it or you want to kind of remember why this game was so important, it works for that as well. All of the extra DLC is included in this as well. It's extraordinary, and what a sheer joy it was to go back to Rapture and re-experience BioShock. One of the best ever, and on Nintendo Switch, it's still a 10 out of 10. BioShock 2 Remastered is included in this collection as well, and this takes us back to Rapture again, which makes us feel a little bit like this is an add-on, or you know, this might have started as some kind of DLC content or something, but it's embellished and refined. There's also extra DLC that's included in this game, and one of them is Minerva's Den, the famous Minerva's Den DLC, which is fantastic. There is no multiplayer in this remastered version for Nintendo Switch, which I think is a little bit unfortunate, even though the legs on multiplayer in BioShock, maybe not the longest, maybe not the thing that people remember the most about this franchise, but I just think as a historical document, it should have been in there. We should have been able to re-experience all of that. But still, it's a very cool alternative perspective look at Rapture. It takes place about 10 years later, and Rapture is still kind of in ruins and devastated. You actually are in the body of a Big Daddy, so you have the Big Daddy's bulk and heft and abilities, especially with the drill, so you can just churn up all kinds of enemies that way, and you can also consume plasmids and have special superpowers and stuff, and you get new ones in this game, and it's just it's another brushstroke of refinement on this world. The mechanics and the systems of the game are all a little bit smoother as well. It's very fun to play, but yes, it still feels like a worthy add-on to the BioShock lineage and the franchise, but maybe not the most necessary of this trilogy. So I would say definitely check out BioShock, the original, and if you adore it and you love the world of Rapture, which I presume you will, then maybe jump in. So I don't know if you want to get the whole collection. Maybe you start with BioShock and then get this one, but it's still absolutely worth playing. And that's the cool thing here. It was developed by 2K Marin with Irrational helping out to kind of flesh it out. So it's much better than your first conceptions of it would be. It isn't a money grab. It's a solid game. It's just not the extraordinary surprise, and how could it be, that BioShock 1 was. Still, it's a terrific get if you happen to adore this BioShock universe as much as I do. I'm going to give BioShock 2 Remastered 8.5 out of 10 for Nintendo Switch. And finally, the last game of my 10 quick-fire reviews, my 2K port party, is bestowed upon BioShock Infinite, which came out in 2013. This came out for the PS3 and the Xbox 360 and PC back in the day. It's been ported to everything since then, and here it is finally on Nintendo Switch. And I was concerned about the quality of this port. Like, how were they going to be able to keep the frantic, frenetic, crazy speed and cacophony of BioShock Infinite and squish it all into Nintendo Switch? And they've done a pretty damn good job. It works pretty damn well. This is the opposite of the world of Rapture. We are in a city in the clouds in this one, and you play an ex-Pinkerton agent who is sent to go and find this woman who is much more than she appears to be. There's all kinds of weird connections with people that seem to just sort of float in and out of time. You get consumed by this utopian world that is very ugly and grotesque and oppressive under the surface. It takes place in kind of the turn of the 20th century. There's a lot of religious symbolism and a lot of American exceptionalism that's on display, and there's an ugliness for sure. As beautiful as this is, the flip of it is just how ugly a lot of the lies are, and how people are marginalized and pushed aside and oppressed and taken advantage of. And you're kind of racing by it, but you're stopping and you're looking at all of the imagery and these moments with these characters, and it's horrifying. But then the flip of it is that it's just so majestic and so beautiful. The Columbia, this city that you get to leap from this one floating platform to another floating platform, and then eventually you'll be able to take the skyline around with your skyhook and zip around super fast and shoot at the bad guys with your guns or your superhuman powers as well. And then you'll meet up with Elizabeth, this woman that you've been trying to get to. Everything just expands from there in some really cool ways. I felt like when I played this game originally that it was a little too loud, or a little too much, and a little too fast. It definitely evolved from the creepy, almost survival horror kind of vibe of BioShock 1 and 2 into this much more kinetic run and gun type of experience. There was a lot of machine gun fire, a lot of carnage everywhere in BioShock Infinite, and I found that to be a bit much when I played that. But because it was so noisy and so loud and so big, I found BioShock Infinite to be a tremendous joy to go back into, because there is still that over-the-top Irrational Games attention to detail, and the world is so new, there really hasn't and hadn't been anything like this creation that Irrational gave us. even in their own BioShock universe. So it's a really, really nice treat to go back to. I have played it on superior hardware. This is a game where it makes me feel like I'd like to play it on my PC or on my Xbox.
Heads.
Or tails.
But it's still a pretty damn good treat to be able to play it on Nintendo Switch and to play it in portable mode too. I can't believe it. It still gets a little choppy. The frame rate chugs in a few places for sure, especially if there's a lot of carnage on screen at the same time. But it's still a very special game, and there's lots of great DLC content and a tremendous amount of value with this one as well. So I'm going to give BioShock Infinite on Nintendo Switch also an 8.5 out of 10. So there you go. There is my quick fire reviews, my 2K port party feature for you. I hope you enjoyed that. We're going to have a lot more features for you, so stay tuned for those, as well as lots of other content for you to dig into. If you dig our channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that thumbs up. Please share this. Thanks for watching, everybody. We will see you soon. And until then, play forever.